what good is it to sign up all these folks, during the year, and they're coming in the front door, but then they're going out the back door during AEP.
Agents just start complaining like, oh, I guess I'm working for free now, things like that. This isn't the time to carry that posture. Right now, it's like get that war paint on and go out there, because this is your biggest opportunity of every year.
Retention is one of the big, it's got to be a huge piece of what you're doing, and it's got to be a big part of your AEP strategy.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Medicare Agent IQ. I am Raul Gonzalez.
And I'm Oscar Ibieta.
And today we are going to start actually a series of podcasts over the next few weeks on getting ready for AEP. And so we really want to let everybody know that AEP prep starts in July, never in late September or October 1st like some people do, right? So there's a lot of
I feel like it's a thing, right? People are like, oh, busy season is in October. When should I start preparing? Or you see those folks who really don't start to take action. They take the entire summer off, and then we hit the fall and we start to, and then it's September rolls around, and then they're like, okay, well, what do I need to do? I'm like, man, you're late to the party. Like
very late.
We need to start on this in July. So here we are.
People like those that are not going through their AHIP and doing all of the certifications right now, or haven't already, jumped in and started them at all, they're always late to the party. And I just feel like I can't remember the old grasshopper and the ant fable. Do you remember? Okay.
No.
Well, then I bet I shouldn't use it. But basically, like there's a grasshopper and an ant, and one of them is working during the summer and getting ready. And then when the cold comes, I don't even remember which one it was. When the cold comes, the one that was working has everything, he's cozy, and the one that wasn't just kind of goes in and needs help. So this idea that we have to go out there and start working now is super important. So
because your results are going to be a reflection of that. Like you're going to go into AEP, and AEP is going to come to an end, right? And then you're going to sit there and decide or determine, okay, was this a successful AEP or was it not? And usually it's the folks that start preparing in July that have those successful AEP campaigns. So get ahead of it now, right? Be the ant or the grasshopper, whoever it was in your story, right? And be the one that's preparing for this season.
I use that analogy a lot, even with my kids. And one of these days I got to read it.
We're going to look it up.
I think it's the grasshopper that was working. I'm pretty sure the grasshopper was the worker. And it might not even be an ant that was, but I think it was, I'm pretty sure
we'll
it was
get to
an
the
ant.
bottom of it. We'll let you guys know next week.
I do feel like ants work hard. All right. I'm moving on, my bad. Okay. So we're going to talk today about kind of putting together 4 different buckets of your current clients. So the biggest play during AEP, the absolute biggest play is protecting your book of business and making sure that when all of it is done, when all the smoke settles and everything is gone, January 1, that those clients that came in with you are still your clients. And so the best way to do that is to have 4 buckets of clients, of most important people that you've got to have your different lists, and we're going to go through that right now. But I was looking. It says that, and we've talked about this before. There are 5 to 9 times. It's 5 to 9 times more expensive to get a new client than to keep your own. And so it's like, man, I'm going to do everything I can and basically treat my current clients as if they're new clients. And you're just not having to work as hard for them. But you can't assume that you're automatically going to get that renewal, especially in today's climate. Medicare is definitely Medicare Advantage. We've seen over the last couple of years, and I think we'll see it again this year, is that people aren't staying the way that they used to. It used to be like 90% of beneficiaries weren't moving, and we're seeing a lot more movement now.
It's like 30, 40%?
Yeah.
You're seeing maybe close to half. I mean, it's getting up there where, again, it's just 2, 3, 4 times more people are moving than we used to see in the past.
Yeah, and it puts us all, one, if you do this right, it's a great opportunity for agents to go out there and make new clients, right? Because, obviously there's people out there that are willing to shop when maybe they weren't before. So if I'm a good agent and have good marketing, and I'm even, if I am that grocery store agent, that Walmart agent that is in a Walmart, in a grocery store, if I do a good job smiling when people walk by, they ask about what we're doing, then that's going to be a good opportunity for them. But as an agent with a large book of business, it's my responsibility to protect that book of business. Right. And it's just, I think that we're going to see some more disruption this year, and hopefully that climate cools down a little bit. But right now we're going to see that. So
I want to say something before we jump into this bucket conversation. So I've seen different strategies, and I think it all just depends on where you're at in your journey, because I've seen where newer agents, those you want to get in those, you want to find the opportunities to grow your book of business, and the best time to do it is going to be during AEP, because that's usually when you see the plans changing, and that's when you're going to see the most disruption. That's when you see people shopping. And so if you're an agent who is trying to build your book of business, this is the best time to do it. It's always a good time, but AEP is an opportunity to really capitalize on building your book of business. But on the other hand, right, if you're an established agent and you've got a large book of business, remember why we got into this, right? It's why I got into the business, for the residual income, right? I always kind of lightheartedly say nobody gets into this for the upfront commissions, because we all know that there are other products, other lines of business where you can probably make larger commissions when you make these sales. So we're not in it for the upfront commissions. We're in it, from a financial standpoint, we're in it for the residual income. And so what good is it to sign up all these folks, during the year, and they're coming in the front door, but then they're going out the back door during AEP. So to your point, retention is one of the big, it's got to be a huge piece of what you're doing, and it's got to be a big part of your AEP strategy.
Yeah, it's got to be the biggest. There's people that I've known that wrote 200 plans during AEP several years in a row, with still only 800 clients. And you write 200 plans during AEP. Every AEP for the last 6 years, you should probably have more than 800 clients, right? Yeah. So because the sales that you write throughout the year, everything like that. But if you're not doing a great job of keeping them, then I'd almost recommend, hey, work a little less hard on making those new sales and just keep your current clients. Absolutely. Yeah. So let's talk about really just kind of where you should separate and kind of what bucket you should put each client in. And so you're going to start off right now, as early or mid-July, you're going to start off where you say, okay, these people are the ones that I think are, the first is the at-risk clients, right? And this is going to change as that summary of benefits comes out, as the sneak peeks, the first looks come out, it's going to change. But initially, we have some people that might go into the bucket that's at risk, and that means like you've gotten calls from them and they're already unhappy with their insurance. Hey, I've had to get referrals, and I'm so tired of the way that these referrals are working, and I'm telling you right now, I'm ready to change insurance. As soon as that opportunity comes, those we already know, and hopefully you've kept a good record. If you don't have a good CRM, we definitely recommend getting a good CRM in order to kind of keep up with this. But you've got these people who are calling you, people who are no longer happy with their insurance, and we already know, without even looking at the plans for next year, this person needs to have a one-on-one meeting, a phone call or something, so that way I can make sure that I don't lose this client. And they know early that I'm being proactive.
Yeah, and timeline wise, right? It's July, so this is when we feel like you need to be preparing. And what we mean by that is July. That's when you need to be knocking out your certifications and all of those things, because it's usually late July that you start to see these sneak peeks, and it's really in August that you'll see the carriers start to release a lot more information on what these plans are going to be looking like. So when you're trying to identify the folks that are going to go into this first bucket that we're talking about, in August, when this information is coming out, early August, that's when you start to prepare. Okay, which, in looking at my book of business and knowing what kind of changes are coming to the carriers and to the plans in these markets that I'm in, who in my book of business needs to go into this bucket. So timeline, that's what you want that to look like. And it can look a lot of different ways too, right? You're looking at the folks that are supposed to go in this bucket that we're calling at risk, right? Is service area reductions, right? Are any of the carriers going to be?
That's what starts coming out a little bit later, right? Like we start to know.
I think we'll see it in August.
Right.
I feel and so that's part of the strategy.
Right.
Sorry, I didn't mean to jump in there.
Yeah, no, it's fine. Like because like this idea here is that going in right now, it's July. Start working on it, and that I've gotten this call from this client who's unhappy. I've gotten this call from this client who says that they have cancer and that the costs are too much. They hit their max out of pocket. It was $5,900. You've talked to those people who've already had those issues, and now August hits, and we know about service area reductions, and explain for those newer agents what a service area reduction actually
SARs,
is.
right? We see the SARs. I'm like, what does that even mean? It's like a service area reduction. So usually it's carriers where they're offering plans in X amount of counties, and so the plan's not going away, but you are going to see the plan no longer be available in some of these counties. So when you hear that term, it's a reduction of the service area.
And there's numerous reasons why they do that. Like it could be that particular county is not profitable. It could be that they're not able to get enough. A large enough network that they have to maintain in order to kind of keep that plan there. There's different reasons that happens.
We're seeing more of it now.
Yeah,
we're seeing a lot more of it just because of maybe there's some of the pressures that the carriers are feeling from CMS. At the end of the day, when I'm talking to agents, I say they're businesses, right? And they have to figure out ways to make it work. And if you're bleeding, like crazy in certain areas, you have to make some adjustments. And that's usually what triggers these service area reductions. There are other factors, but I feel like they're more now than we have seen in the past. We're seeing a lot more of this happening. So be prepared for it, embrace it. I feel like we spend a lot of time, or I see a lot of agents spending time just complaining about it or just being upset about what it's looking like. I'm like, okay, guys, look, let's just adapt and let's come up with a strategy to overcome this.
Yeah, and I will say, like, it's there's a balance. Like, there's a time and a place to complain about all the things that are going on, and so that's not part of our notes here today, but there is a time and a place. Like, I understand I've got some frustrations also, but it's like July and August, instead, because you do see it so much, like agents just start complaining like, oh, I guess I'm working for free now, things like that. This isn't the time to carry that posture. Right now, it's like, get that war paint on and go out there, because this is your biggest opportunity of every year. And so when I look and I see the amount of people that are being displaced from their plans, when I look at that, to me, I'm like excited. I'm like, all right, this is a time for us to really grow, because I think that if I go into this and my retention strategy is good enough that I'm not going to lose people, then I'm going to also, since I'm doing it early, I'm going to get out there and I'm going to take a lot of these other people that have maybe don't have a good agent that's staying in contact with them, that maybe aren't active with their agent. So let's talk about, so as we see those, then you're going to get more and more people that go into that at risk, and more people that need a conversation, maybe even a conversation before AEP. And I want to pause on that real quick, on the kind of conversation that you can have with someone who goes into that at-risk bucket. And I want to make sure that we understand, for compliance purposes, that it's not, hey, just want you to know your benefits are going to be going up. It's August right now, and I just want you to know I saw your benefits. Can't really show them to you, but those costs are going up. You can't say that. But what you can do is just say, hey, look, I don't know what the benefits are for next year, but I get the feeling that maybe we're going to want to have a meeting in October, and so I'm going to probably send you my calendar link to jump on my calendar. I would love if you would respond to that. And when that time comes, when we get closer to the open enrollment period, I want to be that first person that you speak with so we can look at all your options. Just want to remind you that I work with several different carriers. So never in there did I mention that your benefits are going to be bad next year. Never in there did I mention that you need to move. It's just more of a, hey, I definitely think we want to have a conversation.
Yeah. You're just prioritizing them, right? You as the agent, you know what's kind of happening or what's in the pipeline. So you're just making them a priority. So, hey, hop on my calendar, or, early October, at the beginning of October, let's sit down, or let's plan to, you're going to be one of the first folks that I meet. You're not saying this, but in your mind, you're thinking you're one of the first folks that I'm meeting with.
You know what? You could even say that. I mean, I don't have a problem with saying that. Like, hey, look, I just want you to know you're a top priority of mine, and you'll be one of the first. I like to take care of my most important clients at the beginning, as soon as October 1st hits, because you're allowed to have these conversations as early as October the 1st, right? So as soon as that happens, we're going to have this conversation, and I'm going to sit with you because you're an important client of mine. Yeah. And so I love doing that. So
we're talking about ANOCs real quick. I know we've been on this bucket for a while now, but it's an important bucket.
It's probably the most important bucket.
Yeah.
Like the at-risk. Yeah. So talk about the ANOCs.
So the ANOCs, right? So October 1st is when we can officially start discussing next year's benefits. But ANOCs are usually hitting homes. They try to time them to be hitting homes on October 1st, but they're usually hitting homes a few days leading up to October 1st. So
even longer. I mean, I want to say, I remember getting a call like on September the 4th or something like that
early.
Year.
Wow.
Yeah, and I was like, "Are you kidding? You actually have that now?"
Yeah.
It was like super early. So I don't know if it was just an anomaly or what, but be prepared for those calls.
Yeah, and what does that look like? What can we do from a compliance standpoint? What is it that we're able to do as agents when your client gives you a call and says, "Hey, Oscar, I just got my ANOC, my annual notice of changes. What can we discuss with them as agents?"
Yeah, when the guidance that we've been given from the different carriers is this: you're not supposed to speak benefits unless they call you and specifically mention, you're not allowed to speak benefits for the next year unless they specifically call you and say, "Hey, I received this in the mail and I wanted to see if you could answer some questions about it." So you could answer questions about what's in that ANOC. But you can't start talking about other plans. You can't say, "Oh, but you know what? This Humana plan obviously is not the same as it was, and your benefits. You're absolutely right; they've gone up. But there's another plan that I want to tell you about with United, and it's got a $5 copay here or $15. You can't do that. You can't talk about other plans.
Just right? That particular their specific plan.
Yeah, not even other plans within the carrier. Like you can't, right. if they're upset with the fact that their PPO costs went up, you can't tell them, "Hey, now let's talk about this HMO, yeah. And don't worry, this HMO is a lot better and it's got lower cost on this, and this." You basically talk about that plan, and then you can offer and say, "Hey, look, we can have a meeting and just a chance to review your options in early October."
Yeah. And that's not one last thing. It's not a green light to say, "Okay, well, I know that this client, looks like all my clients on this plan have gotten their ANOC, so because I got a call from this client." That's not the green light to call the rest of your clients who are on that plan saying, right. "Hey, did you get you got your ANOC? Let's talk about it." You have to be the one that's on the receiving end of that phone call to open up that discussion.
Yeah. So anything else on that?
No.
Okay. On to bucket number 2, which is these are people who are stable but probably still need some kind of review, some kind of touch. There's always those people that maybe you haven't spoken to in the last year, and sometimes it can go even longer. Maybe they didn't return your call last AEP or something, but they stayed on the plan. You want to make sure that anyone that you haven't had a meaningful touch with in the last 12 months is called and has kind of this, there's different services that you can get where you're either sending a text message, if you could do that through your CRM, but if not, there's places that you can text clients.
I forget the name of the one that I've seen people use before.
Yeah.
Text them all?
Text them all. Yeah, something like that. So there's different things like that you can do, or even send them a voicemail. There's some rules. They have to show that they're your current clients, that kind of thing. But if you can get in contact with those folks, send them a message, get in contact with them, and just let them know that you're still there. So those are people that are more important that maybe you want to get a phone call to, maybe you want to have a short conversation with, even if they're perfectly happy with the plan that they're on. You just want to make sure that you make that phone call and that you reach out to them.
What's good to hear. You want to put yourself in the client's shoes, and you appreciate the phone call or the conversation coming from your agent. So even though you as an agent, you already know that they're not moving, that they're staying right where they are, they still would like to have that conversation. I know I would. If I was if I was in their shoes, I would at least like to hear from my agent, kind of hear from them and be like, okay, you're safe, you're good. This is what's changing. These are some slight tweaks, but overall, I'm still happy with the plan that you're on. I think it's the right choice moving into the new year. And really, that's all they want to hear. It happens a lot. I remember going through that quite a bit. It's like, gosh, Oscar, thank you so much for everything that you do. Because I remind them, look, I've been in meetings for the last several months now, kind of trying to understand what everything is looking like. And after sitting in those meetings, I still love the plan that you're on. I still think it's the right fit for you. So let's do that. And they appreciate that, and they trust me. Again, it's trust that I've built with them over the course of the last several months or years, that now having that conversation with them just kind of puts that to bed. They're safe, they're happy, they feel good, and retention, right? Yeah. The retention is there, as opposed to if I'm not having that conversation with them, even though I know they're good, I don't need to touch them. We don't need to move. If I ignore them or don't have the conversation with them, now I run the risk of, well, let me stop in at this store over here. Let me talk to that agent, or let me talk to my sister's agent who helped them out. I want to know what's changing to my plan. So you run the risk there.
Yeah, and think about this. There's there's a certain amount of dollars that most of these carriers have, and it's not that different from one another. And other than like the 4.5-star plan, the 4-star plan versus a 3-star plan, that kind of thing, there's not that much of a difference in the benefits between the two plans. And so a good independent agent, if you look at a plan, if you're on United, a good agent or someone who's been doing this a long time can make a justification for this Humana plan to beat that United plan. And they're close, but I could show you and I can speak up the benefits. Like even if you're on a plan with lower copays when you go to the hospital, and I've got a plan that has lower copays when you go to the specialist and lower copays for this or that. I could have that conversation with you. I'm like, hey, just in all, you don't have to answer this, more of a rhetorical question, more of a question for you to think about. But when's the last time you actually went into the hospital? So think about that. What benefits are you using more? Are you using the specialist more? Probably, right? And so I could probably get someone to make that change on their plan. So because of that, have a quick conversation. A lot of times people just want to know that they talked to somebody. Like, hey, I had this quick call, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
On to the next bucket. You've got people that are out there that are super loyal, and they call you all throughout the year. They're, you've sold them on, hey, I want to be that first call that you make. I'm the guy that you call, and I'm the first person that you speak with. And so you're selling them on those types of things. And so that's a different bucket, and so it requires a little bit less because you're talking to them throughout the year a lot of times, right? They love you. It's someone that you enrolled. They've sent you 7 referrals. Yeah. They don't refer the company. They talk about what a great agent Oscar is. Those are the kinds of people that you still want to touch them.
They get their own bucket,
right? Exactly. Yeah, and so like that communication to them is probably different. It's a text message. Hey, it's Oscar. I'm just checking in. I just want you to know that I'm here for you, and if it were me, I'd probably stay on the plan that you're on right now. But if you want to change, if you need a change, give me a call, and I would gladly do a review. I can come over and we can talk about it, whatever you think is best. And so you're reaching out to them and just checking them. But before AEP. Again, it's a quick message, and so that's actually what I would do in October. But like if we're back still here in August and they're in this bucket, I'm still checking in with them. I'm actually probably spending a little bit more time on those phone calls with them because I don't need to do anything with them. It's just like right now, I can dial for like 4 hours on a Friday afternoon when I have time and just like, hey, just checking in, calling those loyal people because you know that if you start calling them now, you probably don't have to spend a whole lot of time calling them during AEP.
Yeah, I think there are two victories in there, right? It's the first one is the obvious one, right? You're having the conversation with them early, knowing that there's not a whole lot of action that needs to take place, beyond that conversation. But the second victory is you're kind of planting that seed. If they're your client who's constantly referring people over to you, you've just planted the seed. AEP's around the corner. Now you're even more top of mind for those clients. And so AEP comes, they're going to the family gatherings. They're getting ready for Thanksgiving. They're talking to some family members that maybe they don't talk to as often. You're top of mind. Hey, it's open enrollment for Medicare. Why don't you give Oscar a call? Make sure he's the best. He can do a plan review and let you know if the plan that you're on is still the right fit or if there's something else that's going to make more sense for you. So referrals are just, they're gold. They're nuggets of gold where you're not working so hard for those referrals as you are for other pieces, generating business in other ways.
Yeah, that's a great point. And at the end of every phone call is maybe throwing that out there. And so there's a way to tactfully let them know that every agent doesn't call and check in on their clients. And so the way that I might, I'm doing this one off the top of my head, but if I'm in a conversation with a senior, and so at the end of the conversation, I just wanted to check in on you, like it's super important for me to be proactive with my clients. I'm here, and as you know, I'm always going to be here for you. I will let you know that not every agent calls, and we don't legally have to call every single one of our clients beforehand, but it's something I do because it's important to me to let you know that I'm here for you, and just want to remind you. So as we get closer to AEP, if for some reason you see some advertisement that looks like something you want, first of all, if it was something I thought you should move to, I'd probably call you and say, hey, this might be something you should move to. But if you see an advertisement that grabs your attention, because that's what these advertisements are for, is to grab your attention. So if you see that, give me a call. Don't call the 800 number that you're seeing on the TV. Give me a call and we'll review it with you. But with that in mind, will you do me a favor? I'm sure that you know a lot of other seniors, and I know you referred Yolanda to me last month, and 6 months ago you referred Todd. But it's important to me that as you're out there, this is a time when people are talking about it. Friends might be talking about it at the senior center or wherever you're at church. Will you do me a favor? And if someone asks you about your insurance, would you make sure that you are recommending not just the plan that you're on with United, but you would also say, hey, but you got to call my agent Raul because he's going to be there for you. He checks in, we talk regularly, that kind of thing. And so that's the way that I would have a conversation. It's a long way to say that, but it really kind of communicates a lot to them. It's like, yeah, it does open my, not everybody does have an agent that's going to call me all the time.
Yeah, don't assume, and I love the way that you kind of put that out there. So for those of you guys listening, rewind this and listen to it once again. So for those of you who don't know, I know Raul's mentioned it in the past. Raul, when he got started in the Medicare space, he was a captive agent for a carrier. And so he was a top producer during the AEPs, but I don't think you were ever producer. Like the number one producer, right? But when you looked at your book of business, if I'm not mistaken, you had like the largest book of business, or so your retention was super high, and you got a ton of referrals. And so, again, play back what Raul just went through because it works. We've seen it work.
Yeah. So just for some clarification, because I do think it's important. Like when I was actively selling, I would never be like the number, top 2 or 3, in the top 3. I'd maybe be 4 through 6, somewhere along there. So not top producers. But when one day our manager accidentally put up how many people got leads and how many people self-generated their sales, and so consistently, we saw the months where it was like Raul was just getting referrals, and other agents sometimes were getting some leads, and that showed that. But then when I left, man, after 5 years, I had 1,100 clients, which means my business stayed with me. And I knew agents with much more production than I had. and they had smaller books of business. So yeah, absolutely. It's super important. So real quick, the last bucket is just kind of people that there's some of these plans, especially this year, but there's some plans that are going to be coming out with a C-SNP that maybe looks better than the plan that people are on right now. If there's people that that would probably benefit from that, if it were me, I'm going to make that call before they run into the agent at the grocery store that says, hey, did your agent tell you, because people, like a lot of times when you're working retail, what happens is like people will be walking by with their basket and they'll say, oh, you do Medicare? Yeah. And they'll be like AARP Medicare Complete. And they'll just kind of like walk by. Right. There's that agent that will throw out, oh, that's awesome. Hey, did you hear about the new plan still with United Healthcare with the extra benefits? What? They'll stop them, then they'll open up that conversation. So you want to make sure that if there's a C-SNP opportunity that you're calling your clients and just making sure that if they do qualify for it, if it's like, diabetes or something like that, and you remember that they're an opportunity, I'd get them moved over to it. And so that way you're not risking losing that client.
Yeah, or maybe just like a quick scrub, right, or a screening, if you will, when you have the conversation, if it is your client, and just making sure that there hasn't been any changes to their health. I had a client who recently had to have a stent put in, and so that now qualifies them for, in the market, right, that they're in, it now qualifies them for a C-SNP plan. So we were actually able to, in a way, kind of upgrade their coverage because they now have a qualifying chronic condition to move over to that C-SNP plan. So many times, you see it, people are on these non-C-SNP plans when they should be on a C-SNP plan, or even, you have your D-SNPs who are on a non-D-SNP plan who should be on a D-SNP plan. And so it's just, asking those questions, doing a quick screening, scrubbing, and seeing if they may or may not qualify. And if they do, they go into that bucket.
Yeah, absolutely. And just kind of the last way to do it, to get a bucket going is if you have a good CRM that you are working with, then you can go ahead and export your full client list from that CRM, the name, the carrier type, the plan type, effective date, last contact date. One of the things that I do in the CRM that we have is also have the doctor or physician group that they're in. And so like in certain parts of Texas this year, that's super important because there's a breakup between one of the large carriers and one of the large provider groups, right? And so just newsflash, if you're new to this business, relationships between provider groups and doctors break up. I'm sorry, carriers, provider groups and doctors, but but and carriers break up. But also, the first thing I said, even though I didn't mean to, is also true. Like sometimes a doctor will leave a provider group. So like capturing as much of that data as you can in a way that you can extract it when the time comes. Like this year, if you have clients that are with that provider group that's leaving the carrier, then you want to do a search, and you need to get those people in your first bucket, your top priority bucket, because those people are going to need to move. So pull that information. If you don't have a good CRM, definitely look. There's several out there to choose from. Get a good CRM that will be able to pull those things out. You want to look at the last contact date, trying to get all those notes, maybe put it all together in an Excel spreadsheet and make sure that you are able to do it. And then put together some scripts, emails, and text messages. Make sure that they're compliant, that you'd be able to do. Just keep in mind, if you're going to be texting people, you do want to have permission to text them. That's something that's required. So super important. Have a plan of action for each bucket. And during July, during August, during September, make sure that you are active in that. Make sure that you get in contact with the right people from those buckets. And then we're going to go ahead.
Start working on these buckets
now.
Not in September. I guess that's what I'll add is it's got to be now. It's got to be July, August that you're starting to work on these things.
Honestly, this podcast is probably 2 weeks late. We probably should have got it out like July 5th.
Yeah.
You know, that early in July, but here we are, vacation. But yeah, we got to get that. I would highly recommend doing all that. And so for the next couple of weeks, we are going to be continuing on in a series of AEP preparation, things that we're telling our agents now to do, things that I would be doing if I was actively selling. So get out there and start working on your AEP, because this year will be an opportunity to get the most amount of growth that you ever have if you do it right. All right, guys, until next time.